Okay, any second now, Zoom.
Gotta love it.
Yeah.
I'm watching. I'm refreshing.
Okay, now we're on.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm hitting all these buttons and it's
No
chaos
worries.
over here. Okay, there we are. Okay, welcome everybody to the live stream for August 7th, 2018. This week, I am your host, Dana Morningstar, and with me, as always, is the wonderful, the talented Angie Atkinson.
Hello.
So welcome. So what is new and exciting in your world, Angie?
Well, nothing there, here and there, getting ready for school with the kids and everything, getting ready to do a new little format in my morning show thing. But other than that, it's all the same. How about you?
That's cool. Gosh, what is new and exciting? Yeah, just life. We're meeting with the contractors about the house today, this evening. So that's exciting. And hopefully there's more forward momentum with that. Did you hear, this is random, did you hear that Alex Jones got his YouTube channel canceled? Yeah, that was some big news that was happening lately.
What do you think about it?
I can totally see why they did it.
Right.
And I think they were right to do it. I mean, I think it's one thing to have some really far out there beliefs, but I guess my understanding of it is that there were, he was accusing the whole Sandy Hook elementary school shooting, that was a hoax. It was, a conspiracy, and that the children and the parents were all crisis actors. And it was, these families were being harassed by Alex Jones people, claiming that this never happened, that they're just part of like the government conspiracy agenda. So that kind of stuff just is absolutely inappropriate and outrageous and crosses a line I can't even imagine. So yeah, I think there's a line with like free speech and then like potentially like even inadvertently like inciting violence, So I don't know. What do you think about it?
I mean, I'm with you on all of that. The only possible negative to it is, I think, kind of justified by all of this other stuff, the fact that the families were being harassed. And as someone who, who had, how do I say this? So, I'm a quarter Jewish. And so like all of my family on that side, my grandfather's Jewish. So all of my family on that side, that we hear things, like the Holocaust deniers, for example. That's what it brings to mind for me. And I know it's not the same thing, but it's a similar thing. And so as a former journalist, I'm very pro freedom of speech, but at the same time, hate speech and, and I would consider the discussion on Sandy Hook to be almost like hate speech, because you're denying those people's experiences. You're invalidating their experiences, which is just disgusting. So I guess I'm on the same page. I don't think that free speech applies when we're talking about things and inciting people to commit violence and to deny and invalidate other people's experiences, I guess.
Yeah. And I think too, because we've encountered this in my Facebook group, and you probably have too, where people get upset if they're muted or removed from the group, and they're like, oh, freedom of speech, blah, blah. And it's like, that's a right upheld by the government, but that doesn't go for like private groups. Like you can't just say whatever you want to say and then expect people to be okay with it. Like there's consequences for that. And YouTube is a private platform. It's not a government right. So yeah, to me, it's
exactly.
YouTube doesn't owe anybody anything. Same with Facebook, same with like anybody's website. And that's just the reality of like, if you're going to build a following on another platform, realize like that platform at any time can decide you're not welcome here.
Exactly.
I had my channel, I don't know if you noticed, I had my channel removed from YouTube. Was it like 2 or 3 years ago? Just some trolls hit it, and then YouTube deleted it, and it was a whole nightmare to try to get it back. And that was very eye-opening. I learned a lot of lessons from that about doesn't even matter if your message is even positive or encouraging. If, it strikes the wrong chord to somebody, it can all be over. That's why I back up all my videos now. And
smart. Did you lose a lot of videos when that happened, or did you get them all back?
Thank goodness I didn't. It was I'd posted about what happened in a support group or some like YouTube group on Facebook. And it's like somebody knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who was pretty high up at Google. And that guy emailed me directly and he's like, what is going on? And people on my channel were just bombing YouTube with emails saying like, please get this channel back up. And so it took like 3 or 4 days, but they were able to reinstate my channel. I didn't lose any videos, but there were a lot of tears shed because I had to make peace with the fact that there were maybe like 150 videos just gone.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. So.
And that's the thing that's so difficult about this, but I'm with you. And that's what I guess every YouTuber, we're probably a little off topic, but that's what every YouTuber has to know. They also took Alex Jones off Facebook and some other platform. I heard
iTunes, I think.
That's right. Oh, Spotify also. Yeah. So like, and who could blame him if so I heard somebody say this morning, why give him your megaphone? Because that's what YouTube offers us is a megaphone. So I think that's absolutely, I'm with all of that. Anyway. Okay.
Okay. Well, so let me share a comment that I found. And I guess you guys let us know. Angie and I have been kind of kicking around some different ideas about what to share at the beginning of every live stream. And one of the thoughts was to open with a kind of different comments that we come across during the week that just really resonate with us or that we think would resonate with you guys. So let us know in the comments if that's something that you would enjoy. And just FYI, I plan on anonymatizing, if that's a word, this as much as possible. So
yeah.
Okay. So this comment is from Ralph. And so I'll just use his first name. Ralph says, I think he says, I was happy to hear your evaluation of why you think narcissists demean and criticize their victims. I think too many people incorrectly assume that it's either A, because of them, the victim, that it's our fault, or B, because the narcissist's motivation is to hurt them. Yes, in action, they are hurting the victims. This is undeniable and wrong. However, the motivation is much more inward looking. Narcissists don't hurt other people to play games with the other person. They hurt people to play games with themselves. They're abusing you to punish themselves by proxy or to shore up their own self-worth when they feel weak or for some other selfish reason. This understanding helps you free yourself from the situation. It's not about the victim at all. To a narcissist, it truly is all about them. When you can truly internalize this truth, you realize that you mean nothing to them. Why would you want to continue to interact with someone you literally mean nothing to? I hope if you're reading this, you will do yourself the biggest favor possible and let that narcissistic person go. Move forward. Don't look back. And what do you think about that?
I think there's some truth to it. I don't think that they're usually abusing you to punish themselves by proxy. But outside of that, I think there's some truth there. I think that and that's just my personal opinion. I do think that there are probably some narcissists who group punish to, fine, we're not going out to dinner at all, or fine, we're all going to skip dinner tonight or whatever. But, but I think in general, it's all about them. It's not about punishing themselves so much as it's about, getting what they want at all times, regardless of how anyone else thinks or feels or has, what they have to say about the situation. But other than that, I think that there's a lot of truth in the comment. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he was pretty spot on. I think what he was talking about, because you're missing the context of the video. I think.
True.
So sorry. That kind of going with that. But I think when he talks about they're abusing us by proxy, it's more of like the bullying. Like bullies tend to bully in another person what they don't like about themselves.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Like they see that vulnerability in somebody
Okay.
else they decide is weak, and then they attack. It's not even about the kid being weak. That's the problem, or the adult being weak. It's about them being weak, and they're trying to fight that part of themselves, but they don't know how. And so it's coming out onto somebody else.
That does make more sense.
Yeah. Yeah. But I agree. I think you bring up a valid point though, about, their behavior, and that's, with like throwing a fit or whatever, ruining a holiday or whatever. It's not them trying to punish themselves. It's just them throwing a temper. Like you nailed it. Like it's them throwing a temper tantrum because they're trying to ruin it because of whatever is, because it's all about them.
Right. They need all the attention.
Yeah.
They need all the light to shine on them.
Yeah.
And yet they live with it, with the darkness that never quite gets the light enough. Anyway, we're getting all philosophical, but
yeah. And Healthy Love says, but psychologically explaining it doesn't make that much sense for the whole group of abusers. Some are very happy and amused hurting us. Yes, some of them are incredibly sadistic and malicious and intentional. I think those people that are hurting us, it's still not even about us, even though it's directed at us. It's about them setting up all of these little games for ego fulfillment, to build their self-esteem because of some deep-seated loathing within themselves. They might hate women. They might hate men. They might hate their sexuality. Like they might hate the thought of being hurt in a relationship. Like they might just enjoy the power of instilling fear in other people. It just makes them feel superior.
Yeah.
There's any number of reasons, but still, I think Ralph is so right about, if we can see that it's not us, like if you weren't the target, it would be somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, even though it's directed at us, it's not personal, it's them. And they're going to continue this cycle over and over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah. Okay. This is an interesting question. I don't know if you're ready to take questions. Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Dandelion Greens says, hi, everybody. Really curious. How do healthy people think about dividing financial responsibility, considering no two people bring identical finances to a relationship? That's an interesting question. And I'll just tell you really quickly what I think and the way that we manage it in my relationship. When you are in a marriage or a marriage type relationship where you're putting your lives together and you're committing to one another in a healthier fashion than with a narcissist, one of the things that we do is it's just all our money, so his money and my money go into the various accounts for various reasons. And we don't, like, if all of his money was spent that week, and there's still some of my money in there, I don't even know how I would, then we don't, like, if he's like, well, I need to buy this thing for this, or I need to get gas for my car or whatever, I'm not like, oh, well, you can't spend any money because that's my money. We don't have my money and your money. And I think that's part of it right there. You don't, like, for us, it's a big pool, of money, not a big pool, but you know what I'm saying? We put all of our money in one pot and there's no my money and your money. And that's what it is. And we function as a unit, as a family unit. And there's never been, any problem with that, because nobody is trying to, sometimes he makes more money and sometimes I make more money. And it just depends on, really mostly how much traffic I get and how many appointments I have that month. But that's what it is. And so there is no my money and your money. It's all shared responsibility, because all the money goes in one pot and then everybody gets what they need. That's how we roll. How do you roll in your relationship, Dana?
Well, yeah, ours, I mean, I don't know. Ours is kind of a strange situation. We probably need to get more on the same page with things. Yeah, because it's just been, I don't know, it's just been kind of a rough ride for the past, few years and stuff, since I quit my job and have been doing this. So I will say what my mom did in her marriage, which I think was really, really a good idea. And this is probably something that Travis and I need to to get on the same page with, because I liked this approach. But because, okay, so for example, my mom and my stepdad, former stepdad, they're now divorced. They married much later in life. They were in, I want to say they were in their 60s, I believe, when they got married. And they both had money. They both had children. They both had adult children. And so what they did is they got together and then they created a joint account that was this. So they had all of their own stuff separate, and they created a joint account, and they each put in a certain percentage every month. And so because there was a big difference in how much money they made. And so out of that pool of funds came like groceries, gas, vacations, what have you. And then that way there was no fighting about, and then because they each had their own money. So if he wanted to go buy his adult kids, he wanted to help them out with the house payment or whatever, he could. And there was no there wasn't like a lot of, there wasn't a lot of commingling. I think that keeping things separate, especially when there's children from previous relationships involved, can be a really good way to do it. Because then if there is that divorce, then things get really messy. And then it can be like, we've, just, I don't know. Things can just get really messy. I can see the approach. I can see it both ways, like combining finances and doing it that way. I think it just depends on what works for a person in a relationship and what you're comfortable with.
Right. And I think that's what I was just about to say, is it depends on your circumstances. It depends on your needs, your personal needs, and your, if you're getting married in your 60s, that's a lot different than getting married in your late 20s or your 30s, which is when we got married. You know what I mean? So I think I actually was 30 when I married my current husband, but we were together in our late 20s. So, it's kind of one of those things, but I think ultimately you both have to agree to whatever it is and then just stick with it. And I think that's how you're doing it. Whatever you decide is best for you.
Yeah.
Coming from your house. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Oh, I was just saying, can you hear that lawnmower guy?
I could, yes, for a minute, not anymore.
Okay. Yeah, that's really, really loud right outside the window. Fantastic.
Oh, lovely. Don't you love it when they do that?
Yes. So, here we got a comment. I think this is so right on. Between says, boundaries are like holy water burning the narcissist. And
I love that.
I know,
profound.
Right? That is profound. Yes. I think that's really right on. And we had talked about this in a couple other live streams about Angie, about paying attention to how somebody handles these things, paying attention to how somebody handles your boundaries, and when you're being assertive, and when you're opening up and sharing things about yourself, like how do they handle that information? Do they agree with you and then just keep doing whatever it is that they're going to do? Or do they actually take it to heart and make an effort to change their behavior if they, if it's a reasonable request to make? Do they, how do they handle stress? How do they handle these things? So
that's I think a really good way to identify these people a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that same note, something that I just recently talked about with people in my actually sessions as well as streams was, and I've talked about it a lot of times, but one of the quickest ways to find out for sure if your person is a narcissist is to say something to them like, Dana, I really like about you that you're always, you always show up with us on, with me on Tuesdays, and you're easy to talk to, and I get along with you so well. And then if I was to say to you, so, what do you like about me? And you were like, well, I like it when you come over on my channel and I get extra subscribers or whatever crap, Anyway, the point being, making it about the other person, making it about themselves. So if everything that you like about me is how I help you or how I do for you, then you might be a narcissist. You know what I mean? So with a romantic context, being like, if you say to your person, I really like that you are strong and I like that you have blue eyes or whatever crap you say. And then they come back with, well, I like that you have my back and I like that you take such good care of the house. And whatever. I like that you make me feel this way. Then, they don't even know you really. And if they know you, they don't like a lot about you, which is ridiculous. So, or they don't bother to see what they like about you because all they think about is how you affect them, which is pretty clearly a narcissist. But anyway, I always think that's a good question to ask. So
I think you are so spot on with that. I think that's huge.
Has anyone in the chat asked, put your answers down here, but have you guys asked that question to a narcissist before and how did they respond? Let us know. A narcissist who was not in love bombing mode. Okay.
Yes.
Anyway.
And here's a comment from Dandelion Greens, who's talking about the games that narcissists play. She says, my ex narcissist liked to get away with stuff. And I think it's because it made him feel superior. I was tricked over and over and I felt stupid each time. I can agree completely. I think that was one of the hardest things for me to understand was all of the unnecessary lies and the unnecessary games. Like it just didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, what? It just was so much unnecessary energy to exert. And it took me years to fully understand, like, oh, it's because this is all fun for you. Like It was just wild. I mean, the first realization was, oh, I got caught up with this emotional con artist. This person is not who I thought they were. But that was the piece of, I didn't realize that it was so sadistic and that there was all of this like crazy internal like need for self-esteem of I just did not realize the depth of like the pathology of that is a narcissist or a sociopath. It just took me a long time. So yeah, I get it. But normal people, I mean, Dandelion, like normal people, we don't even think that way. Like that's not even on our radar to think that way. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things like we have to really forgive ourselves for not seeing this kind of stuff clearly, because my goodness, I mean, like, who would in a million years think that another person would go to such unnecessary efforts to, most people seem to just want peace and happiness in their life. And it's weird to us to think that other people don't,
I get that. Yeah, totally. And that always shocks me, but they actually enjoy chaos. I think they thrive on it. And when I say chaos, I don't just mean physical chaos, but also that kind of the game playing where your head's all over the place and you don't know. I've watched, and I'm sure you could probably have experienced a similar thing. I've watched so many narcissists do this. Start a bunch of crap somewhere with someone, get someone screaming and upset. Sometimes it was me, get someone riled up, and to the point that they feel like their head's about to explode. And the narcissist then will sit back and like smile,
mm-hmm.
Just a little smile. And I think that is evil. They love it. I know it's ridiculous. But it is what it is, I guess. And, this is interesting. Marie Laidlaw says, I think the hardest thing about recovering is the plethora of emotions you feel at once: sadness, anger, confusion, yearning, up and down. How do you guys deal with this tangled mess in your head? That is a great question. What would you say? How would you start out with Marie, Dana?
That is a great question. I think just knowing that that's normal and understanding that, yeah, you're going to be a wide mix of emotions. Mm-hmm. Because what you experienced is so outside the realm of normal and so outside the realm of like what you even thought was probably possible. And it's just going to take a while for your brain to process all of that. And so, I'm a big fan of just encouraging people right now. The clarity will come in time, and you're not going to have all of the answers all at once, which is probably a good thing, because it would probably send a person into like emotional collapse to have all of these realizations in like a weekend, Oh
my gosh, for sure.
Yeah. But I would just say, right now, just realize what you're experiencing. You're having a very normal response to a very abnormal situation. And it's a good idea to just kind of bench yourself, take a time out, triple up on your self-care, and just focus on trying to stay, Healthy Love used a great term the other day. She called it anchored in your reality.
Yeah,
Like,
I just did a video about that.
did you come up with the term? Where did that term come from? It's fantastic.
I don't know. I thought that, because I was trying to figure out a way to help people with cognitive dissonance. And I, the anchoring technique.
Maybe she got that from you. I love it. If she did, even if she didn't, I freaking love that. Yes, it is good.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important, just in writing stuff down, because our brains will play tricks on us anyhow. And especially when we're dealing with this kind of manipulation. So writing down all of the stuff. So, if you start missing them, to keep you anchored in the reality of, no, this person was really problematic, that you caught them on online dating sites. They lied to you about their work history. They lied to you about, or their financial abilities. They lied to you about their age. They lied to you that they're a pathological liar. Like, spell this stuff out for yourself. They lied to you about having children.
Yes.
I mean,
and the emotions that come with that,
yeah.
how it made you feel, because that's exactly what I called the reality anchoring technique, is writing it all down, because and then put it in a drawer. You don't have to live with it in your face, because eventually you're going to want to move past it, but you keep it, because when they try to suck you back in, or when you have those moments of abuse amnesia where you kind of get weak, pull it out and read it again and remind yourself. Because it's easy for us to forget those things when the longer we're away. You know what they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. No joke. It's true. It's true. And even with abusers. So as we're leaving, we're like, oh, thank goodness I'm out of there. I'm so much better. But then we get lonely, or we get tired, or we need help with something. And that person might've been the one that would help us before. And even though they are a narcissist and horrible and whatever, maybe they took the trash out once a week, or maybe they would watch the kids while we run to the store or whatever. And I remember that was one of my biggest things when I first became a single mom, was like, it would be like 8 o'clock at night. My kid would be ready for bed. I'd be putting him in bed. And then I remember, oh crap, I need to buy this thing for work tomorrow, or, oh crap, we're out of milk or whatever. Well, nowadays we have Instacart, so we don't need to worry about that. But back then it was a problem. And I used to get real stressed out about it, because I didn't want to wake the kid up and drag him out of the house. It's a silly thing, but it's a small thing, but it's a thing that really you think about. And then I would think, man, I wish I had somebody here to watch my kid for just a minute while I run to the store. He's asleep. I don't even, you know what I mean? And it's a silly thing, but it's a thing that really you deal with. And so, yeah, blah, blah, blah. But I would add to that, regarding the tangled mess in your head, the writing it down is perfect. But also, as like you said, Dana, with, certainly giving yourself some grace and recognizing that we all go through something like that. And then on top of that, to allow the emotions to flow a little bit at the beginning of everything, as you're going out of the relationship, or you're discarded or whatever, give yourself a specific amount of time to allow yourself to sort of cry and throw things if you need to, and write dark poetry or whatever it is for you that helps you express that. For me, I used to write some dark poetry, but whatever it is, and let it out. And then once you've done that, and the reason I say a specified amount of time is because I think we have to put an end date on what I call that mourning period, where we're going through and letting all those things come out. Because when we're in these relationships, almost all of us are like this. We learn that if we express our true emotions to that person, whether they are our spouse, our partner, our parent, our boss, whatever, when we express our true emotions, then we are beat back down, right? And so we learn to modify whatever we express, or we don't express at all. And so when we're finally out of there, we need that free space to go and let it all out, whatever it looks like for you. And then, and so depending on the length of the relationship, like if we're talking about like a 3-month relationship, maybe you just need a weekend. If we're talking about a 25-year relationship or a lifelong parental relationship, you might need a little longer to do that and go through that. You might need a month or whatever, but whatever it is, give yourself a certain amount of time, and then say, okay, but like on, Monday, January 1st or whatever, make up whatever day it is for you. I don't know. Then come back around and go, okay, now today I'm going to start living my life again. And that's when you intentionally start choosing something different. And while you're going through the mourning phase, you can kind of be on the side, like planning what your new life is going to look like. And you should be. Even if you don't know entirely, you have to know what makes you happy and what will fulfill you in the end. And then you don't always have to know how you're going to get there. You just have to start to think about what it looks like on the other side. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. I think you're right on. I mean, hindsight being what it is, I think that was one, I mean, there's a few like key pivotal points in my thinking that really helped me heal, that I feel like I just kind of stumbled into, like, and I'm so thankful for those kind of key turning points. And that was really one of them. I think realizing that we can still feel like our life is blown apart, and we can still be profoundly anxious and depressed and still get out there and have fun. Like joy and anxiety and sadness can exist at the same time. We just have to learn to shift gears.
Mm.
And because I had been waiting for a while, being like, okay, well, I'm just going to wait until I heal and then I'll get busy living life.
Mm-hmm.
You can spend decades doing that. And then I think too, especially if a person thinks that healing means going back to the way things were. And,
Right.
you know, I would talk about this a lot. Like life is always about growth. It's always, we'll never, no matter good or bad, we'll never go back to the way we were, because we're not meant to.
Absolutely.
And so that can keep a person stuck thinking that waiting to, I put up a video today on trust. And this is a common thing that people struggle with healing as well, is I think probably the most common thing really that people struggle with when they're fresh out of this is they're like, I just don't know who to trust. I'm so scared to trust again. And, you know, so much of that is just realizing that there's a lot of like normal people, probably us too, before this happened, that went about things in a very unhealthy way, but they don't realize it because it hasn't blown up in their face yet. And to like totally, fully, completely trust a total stranger within, you know, a few hours or days of meeting them, to open up yourself, to just really like, that's not, to be cautious about doing that isn't you having an issue with trust. It's a sign that trust hasn't been appropriately built yet, and that we have to go slow and wait, you know, have that trust be earned with appropriate actions over time. And then we'll start trusting. But that can be crazy making, because other people that have that mindset of like, oh, I met this person online and I'm going to go, I just met them. We've been chatting for a week now. I'm going to go fly across the country and meet them. Right. Or we're going to go have dinner over at his house. And then if you have an issue with it and they're like, oh, you have issues because of your ex. Not everybody's like your ex. You know, you're being hyper vigilant. It's amazing to me the amount of people out there that have really poor boundaries and don't even realize it. Therapists too. Yeah. And that kind of stuff, like, you know, if you don't know a person, anybody can be anything on the internet. Somebody here was talking about being upset about coming across some problematic people that are claiming to be healers online.
I heard about that too
Yeah, I think it was a gal from I think it was Slavic Princess, the same gal from your channel. I mean, this is the thing, like people claim, if you spend enough time on YouTube, people claim all kinds of stuff, like all kinds of stuff. And so there's no substitution for just going slow, listening to your emotions, listening to your intuition, and letting their behavior surface, because generally in enough time it will, and you'll see things clearly.
Yeah. And that's exactly why part of the reason I think that we need, and you kind of touched on this, but part of the reason that we really need to intentionally choose to re-embrace our own intuition, to reopen ourselves to it, is because the narcissist and cognitive dissonance that comes along with being abused by one, you almost aren't allowed to trust your intuition. You almost stop trusting it, or you might entirely stop or never trust it if it's a parent, because every time you attempt to make something happen or not let something happen based on your intuition, you're shut down, smacked down as quick as possible. So then rather than focusing on your own intuition and what you sense or know to be true, and many of us being empaths, we're pretty good with the intuition, right? Then you start basing your choices and your decisions on how the narcissist is going to react to whatever it is that you're going to say, think, do, or feel. And that, I think, is why so many survivors struggle with this, is because we are taught not to follow our intuition by a narcissist. So then when we're out of the relationship, a lot of us are spinning around going, I don't know what to do, you know? And that's why I think it's so important that we intentionally choose to learn again about our intuition, to dig into it and understand what it feels like when something is right, what it feels like when something is wrong, and to start to tune into that. I totally, just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's difficult. And I think that's where the power and the growth can really come from, is when we start kind of realizing, oh my goodness, like maybe my way of interacting with the world and trusting wasn't healthy to begin with. And oh my goodness, okay, well, what does this mean? Right. And how do I go about doing things different? It's difficult. Like you're saying, Angie, if you grew up in this, if you grew up in a den of dysfunction and you weren't allowed to have your own thoughts or feelings or opinions or wants or needs, that stuff has been suppressed for a very long time. And then you get in these relationships later on in life, and then you've got society, right? You've got other people telling you like, oh, it's no big deal. I mean, other people telling you things that you're like, this does not resonate with me. Right. And they might even be well-intended, and they might even have good advice a solid majority of the time, but it's just learning to get grounded within yourself and realizing that looking inward for that validation instead of looking outward. It's a game changer when you can get to that place, but it does take time, because when a person has their whole sense of reality blown apart like this, and they're so hurt, and then trying to figure out what's real and what's not, and who was it, me or was it them, and and then you stumble into like all of that well-intended bad advice out there, and then it's compounds, and then people are like, oh, it's just your PTSD, and it's like, like I don't know is it my PTSD? Because I don't think so. Like I think that person's really problematic, and like I don't know who to trust, and then it's difficult, but the answer is truly just turning inward and going with your gut. And if you're still uncertain, then just take a seat, just bench yourself.
Yeah.
And don't make any wrong with decisions. There is not. I mean, the odds of it's really important to be able to understand kind of these key elements in making a good decision. So you can tell when those key elements are not there. So it's so hard to tell if we're making a bad decision at the time.
Yeah.
And the biggest indicator of that really is your emotions and how you're feeling. If you're feeling like anxious and depressed and concerned and mental anguish and perpetual confusion, those are all signs to just take a seat and it's okay. Just chill, triple up on your self-care, surround yourself with people that have proven that they have good intentions, and get grounded.
Yeah. And if you're doubting yourself for any reason, then know this: if it's about a romantic situation, for example, and somebody's like, let's move forward, and you're like, I'm not ready yet. Or I'm not sure, if that person is like, okay, well, I'm out of here, that probably wasn't the right person for you. If that person really is your one, you know what? They're going to be like, I totally understand. Really. And on that same token, something I went through almost an existential crisis when I went no contact with my original narcissist. And it took me months, maybe a year or two to fully get through it. And I went through this big, long session, like phase of, do I really believe what I think I believe? And I'm not going to go into all the details and take up the whole hour here, but I will tell you this: you don't believe all the things you think you believe after you're out of a relationship with any narcissist, but especially a parental one, but even a non-parental one. You get their ideas in your head. And it's not that you intentionally choose to be like them or anything like that, but you get little things. Like, I'll just tell you a tiny quick story, and I think I've told it before, but I'll tell it again. Mm-hmm. When I was at the grocery store and the checker says to me, here's your change, honey. And I thought, I don't like it when people call me honey. And I know we talked about this, and I don't care. But for my whole life up to that point, I had instantly been angry when anyone called me honey. Now, to be fair, I would be irritated if a professional colleague called me honey in a professional situation. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But in that case, it was just a sweet little old lady, and she was trying to give me back my honey change, whatever. So the point was that that was the thing that really set off this whole thing for me. Something so simple, because I was irritated with this little old lady for just being sweet to me. And so all of these things came up after that, almost like, vomit, where all of these things kept coming up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't, I don't even know who I am. It was a major like I said, an existential crisis, but it became me waking up. It became me recognizing what I really did think, what I really did believe. And over time, that led to me unconditionally accepting myself and who I am, which is why I'm able to sit in front of a camera on YouTube and take any criticism that's thrown at me. You know what I'm saying? Today, because my God, 6, 10 years ago, I would have been on the floor the first time somebody said horrible things to me on YouTube. And Dana, you probably know what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
yes.
Sometimes people are real jerks on YouTube, not y'all, but the people in the comments sometimes, So yeah. Anyway, okay, moving on. Where were we?
But I think you bring up a great point though. It's so funny how it's these little like blips of insight that like you said at the grocery store, you're like, you know what, that I'm totally fine with her saying that.
Right. Right.
And it's so funny because it's those moments that just feel like so small, but then down the road, they're so profound because it just blows open this whole door of thinking of like, well, wait a minute, like, well, what else have I been carrying around thinking that it bothers me, but it doesn't bother me. It bothered my mom, or it bothered people in my religion, or in like my friends.
Yeah.
And there's so much growth that can come from this that I get excited when people are kind of at this stage, because it's like, oh my gosh, your life is radically going to change. And I hope that there's so many tools out there now, thank goodness, that can help a person move in that positive direction. But it's so cool to see people come back with these little moments of, I had shared in a video the other day, a similar kind of seemingly insignificant moment. I was filling out security questions for my bank. This was years ago. And, asks you like, what was your favorite color? What was your favorite pet? What was, and I was having this whole like existential crisis, because I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I like lots of different food. I have lots of different movies I like, and lots of different favorite colors. And all my pets have been my favorite for one reason or another, and I was seriously having so much anxiety. And then I'm like, do other people just know this stuff and they don't have to think about it? And what's wrong with me? And then that just led to this whole other, getting clear with myself and really examining, like, what do I like? What do I not like? And why?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I get that. Yeah. And on that same token, I remember thinking that what I liked wasn't good enough, so I'd have to pretend that I liked other things. No joke. It's funny now. I'm laughing at myself because I can't believe I did that, but I did. Like, I used to be embarrassed that I liked certain kind of music, or I'd like certain foods, or, because I'm real simple when it comes to food. I'm real basic. Like, I have about a 10, 12-year-old palate, but But really, I used to be embarrassed about that stuff and think I needed to have a more sophisticated palate. And like, I'd rather drink, if I'm going to drink alcohol, I'd rather have something that doesn't taste like alcohol. And I'm not really like a big fancy wine person. And I know that that's very unclassy of me, and I just don't care. I don't really like to drink alcohol anyway, but if I'm going to, it does not taste like alcohol. Okay. So little things, but now I don't care anymore. And I'm okay with the fact that I have a whatever kind of music taste, and I have a whatever kind of fashion sense, and I shop in the junior section because it's cheaper and I'm short, whatever. It's fine. Unconditional self-acceptance. And now if I walk into like an ice cream shop, I know exactly what I'm going to get. I already know. And that's the same, Yeah, I like that. All right. Anyway, moving right along.
Yes. So right on. Okay. We've got a question. I think you'd probably be the best one to answer this, Angie. This is from Agata, who asks she says, what is the most important step in healing from narcissistic parents, or how do you even start?
Oh, the most important step, or how do you even start? Well, I think we kind of touched on this a little bit with the unconditional self-acceptance thing, but when you've gone through a relationship with narcissistic parents, it is your entire being. It becomes like everything you've gone through up to this point in your life has made you who you are. And the good thing is, here's the good bright side of this. The good thing is that now you get to choose. You could have always chosen, but you didn't know that back then, right? I didn't know that who I was okay. I didn't know that I could be me, right? Because all I knew for sure was that I was not good enough, because that was the constant message. Who you are is not enough. Who you think you want to be is not good enough. The choices that you're making as a second grader for your future career, That's not going to work, whatever. And in reality, it was enough. I was okay. I was a good kid. I got good grades. I was smart. I did all the right things. I hardly did anything. I was now, as an adult, I can look back and go, man, I was a really good kid. But I couldn't see that as a kid because that was the concept. So my point is, I think the first most important thing you have to do is disconnect yourself. Then you have to start looking inside of yourself and seeing what are the messages. So here's a really simple exercise you can do. I would sit down with a piece of paper and I would write down, start with 10 or more messages that were negative about yourself that you carry around in your heart every day, things you believe about yourself because it was told to you over and over and over again. Like, I'm not very pretty, or I'm not very smart, or I'm not very whatever, or I'm this or that, whatever it is that you think about yourself. Those are things I thought about myself. And well, that's not true. I always knew I was smart, but I definitely didn't think I was pretty. But my point is, write that stuff down and let it sit overnight like tea, right? Like, let it steep, right, in a drawer or something. And then the next morning, get up, have your coffee or your tea or whatever, get ready, and then sit down with that list again. And on each of those lines, I want you to cross out that thing. I don't care who said it. Cross it out like it's not real. And then right next to it, on the other side of the paper, write your truth. So if you believe that you were unattractive because you were told you were unattractive for your whole life, right over here on the other side, I'm beautiful in my own way. You know what I'm saying? If you thought you were not smart, right over on the other side, cross that stuff out. Literally cross it, physically cross it out. And the reason I say that is because it takes away the power a little bit, kind of cancel it out in your mind, and then write down your new truth on the other side. And when you finish, say, the 10 that you did on the first run, because you can do this multiple times, anytime you have a negative self-perception, write it down and write down the new truth. Well, what do you have there? You have some seriously good affirmations that you just wrote yourself. So anytime you're feeling ugly, I'm beautiful in my own way. Just remind yourself of that. You know what I mean? Anytime you're not feeling very smart, I'm incredibly intelligent and perceptive, whatever it is for you. You know what I mean? And don't be scared to kind of beef it up a little bit, make yourself feel better. Everything that we are is the result of our experience and our thoughts. The good thing is, the beautiful thing is, our brain is changeable. It's neuroplastic, the neuroplasticity thing, right? So you can reroute stuff, change the way you think, change the way you perceive the world, and therefore change your whole world if you want to. But it all starts with just a single thing. Go no contact with those people, or low contact as possible, and start looking inside of yourself for those negative perceptions, and then start one by one, crossing them out, weeding them out of your brain, replacing them with what you know to be or want to be the truth. And then moving forward with inspired action. You can't just be like, they told you were poor your whole life and you tell yourself you're a millionaire and boom, you're a millionaire. That's not how it works. You still have to take action to reach certain goals. But for those simple things, like the way you look, the way, how intelligent you are, how fashionable, whatever, you can slowly, cross each one out and change it to something positive. And when you realize that those weren't your thoughts floating around in your head in the first place, when you realize the depth of the damage that was done to you by toxic parents, you might get angry for a while, and that's okay. It'll help you move forward. But when it stops being effective, when you stop propelling forward because of the anger, then you have to let go of that as well. But it's shocking and eye-opening and life shaking, life rocking, when you start to really dig into this. Stick with us here, stick with us on my channel, stick with Dana's website, thriveafterabuse.com, my website, queenbeing.com, tons and tons of resources on both of those sites. Make sure that you trust yourself, start to trust yourself, start to let go of those things that are like bugs in your body, almost from the negative thoughts and the negative perceptions of you and of other people. As I explained earlier about the person calling me sweetie or honey, it was because I had been told by a narcissist as a child that she didn't like that because she felt, even when the old lady at the grocery store said that to her, she would feel as though that lady was talking down to her. Well, now I understand those were her own issues, nothing to do with me, but she, projected those onto me. And so it's a process. Give yourself some grace. Don't beat yourself up. Take some time to cry when you first disconnect, if you can, and then just start your life and choose it. You can. So,
Yep.
Yeah. Right on. Any other thoughts on that, Dana? Ooh.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to go on to the next
Oh,
question.
no, I just think that you're right on, realizing that like we can create our reality and that we can create ourselves and I love your idea about writing things down and kind of figuring out, okay, what do I really think? And maybe I would even say like dividing it into different sections, like spirituality, finances, relationships, friendships, career options, like, because we all, even if we weren't raised by a narcissist, we all have these beliefs that about who we are and what we're capable of.
Yes.
And getting clear on like, what beliefs am I holding on to? Because our brain is a funny thing. And it's the opposite of cognitive dissonance is cognitive resonance. And so our beliefs, cognitive dissonance is that mental distress that we feel when our actions don't line up with our thoughts.
Yeah.
And cognitive resonance is that peace we feel when our thoughts line up with our actions.
Yes.
And so we're driven to have our thoughts and actions line up. And if we have these thoughts or these beliefs about who we are and what we're capable of, we're subconsciously going to try to match our actions to that. And that's powerful stuff. And it can be really difficult to break some of these beliefs. But if people are walking around thinking like, I'm not worthy of being respected, I don't really matter, my opinion doesn't matter. Everybody else comes first, I come last. Trying to think of what other some beliefs are. Intelligence, how much money that you think you can make in a year.
Upper limit problems. Yeah. I used to think that I wasn't a real person. I wasn't as real as everybody else. And I know that sounds weird, but I did.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, growing up, and I don't know why I would put it this way in my head, but I did. And it was because every time I'd talk about anything, like, oh my gosh, I have this really good idea, this is what I would get. Like, I'm so annoyed that I have to listen to you talk, or I'm busy, I can't talk to you right now. Nothing that I would say would be taken as real. Like, I'm really upset or depressed about this thing would be taken as, oh, get over yourself, just go do your thing, go play, go blah, 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 whatever. Everything was invalidated, constant invalidation. And so I would look around and I would see other people's, parents validating them. And I would see other, people believing in themselves and believing they could do things. And I would go, I guess I'm just not a real person. And that's how I was until I was 35 years old. I wasn't sure I was a real person, because I was constantly invalidated by parental narcissism. That's all I'm going to say. And it was unhealthy to an extreme level. It led me into horrible relationships as an adult. It led me into circumstances I didn't want to be part of. Always, and I'm going to be really, really raw with you right now. In college, I was bad. I was bad. And I did a lot of things I shouldn't have done as far as getting into bad relationships or situations, because I can't say they were actual relationships for the most part. Being involved with people I shouldn't have been involved with. I did way too much. And it was because even though I couldn't admit it to myself right then, I just wanted somebody to love me. And I thought that and I lied to myself. I told myself that, I'm just different than everybody else. It's okay for me to like not follow society's rules or whatever. I'm different. It's okay. But really, if I was just going to rip off all of my, armor, you would see somebody who is just like, I just hope somebody loves me sometime in my life. And that's really like raw. I can't even believe I just told you that, but really that's what it was. And when you can become that real with yourself, it took me a long time to be able to even admit it to myself. But when you can become that raw and real and realize, okay, yeah, I'm flawed. I'm not perfect, but this is why I did that. This is where this came from. This came from growing up, not feeling like a real person. And I guess almost looking for someone to say, hey, you're a real person now,
Yeah.
But until I could look at myself and say, hey, Ange, you're cool. It's all right. You're real. And then that sounds really casual, but it wasn't that casual. When you get to that place where you can start to recognize your truth and recognize that, what, definitely not perfect, but I'm totally okay with that. Unconditional self-acceptance. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that there are things about yourself that you don't love, things you want to change. We're always evolving until we die, in my opinion. And so why not just enjoy the journey where you are right now and keep evolving as you go? Love yourself despite your flaws, accept yourself despite your flaws. You'll get to love later. Accept yourself just like you would accept anyone else in your life who you care very much about. We don't understand self-love when we're raised by narcissists because we're not taught to love ourselves. We're taught to love other people who don't love us back. You know what I mean? We're taught unconditional, what's that word? Obligation to these people, and they don't love us back. And so they love us as far as anyone else knows. But when it comes to those little tiny things that truly, in my opinion, mean love to a child, like, let me listen to what you're going to say and validate it, they got nothing. They roll their eyes. They act like you're not even real. And that's what I mean. You're not a real person, because I was not a real person because I was never validated until I truly could understand that and look hard at myself in a way that allowed me to see that, oh my gosh, I was doing all those things in college because I was looking for somebody to love me. That's harsh. Mm-hmm. It's painful to recognize and admit that, but it's true. and it's real. And that's exactly what it was for me.
Yeah. I hear you. I think I like the way that you described that, because I think I suffered a lot of the same kind of stuff. I felt like I just, I didn't take myself seriously.
Yeah.
And I think it was because the way I grew up, it was kind of, everything that I was doing was either not enough or it was wrong.
Yep.
And so I just had, and it's funny because I never saw that before. And then also just not realizing like who I was. Like I was such a different kid. I mean, high school was absolutely awful for me. And anyways, I couldn't handle the crowds of people. It was way too much. I ended up dropping out. Actually, my first high school experience, I'll just tell this real story real quick. I've never shared this before, and then we'll drive on. I was in high school, and I went from a small private school to a really large public school, and it was massive overwhelm. I would show up for tests, and that was it. And I had a really good GPA, but I failed on absences. I forged the forms. I got caught, and I got expelled.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so then we moved to Colorado, and there 9th grade is junior high. So I was back in junior high after coming in a small town, after coming from like this high school with like 4,000 or 5,000 people.
Wow.
And I was just like, I'm just done. Like, I'm done with all of this. Did that, went back to high school, lasted about 2 or 3 days, dropped out. Told my mom, I said, I can't do this. There's just too many. It's too much. It's too much. And then, I mean, all of these things. And so the whole time it was always put on me, like that. I just didn't fit in. And then I got into this alternative high school that I absolutely adored. And I made a deal with them. I'm like, can I just have the work? And I'll just basically be there for journalism class and photography class and then art class. And then I'll just self-teach myself. And they agreed to that. And then I graduated early.
That's great.
Yeah, it worked for me. But like, I always felt less than because I just marched to the beat of a different drummer. Really like understanding the concept of being an empath and being like a highly sensitive person in general just about made me cry. Cause I'm like, that is me. Like I really struggle with crowds, big cities, lots of people, all of this stuff. And all of that, my whole life I felt like it was bad and wrong and that there was something just profoundly wrong with me. And every decision I made was not right because I was looking towards other people that weren't me to validate me. And so I kept trying to fit in. And then I was just continually like starting over, like, this isn't right. This isn't right. This isn't right. You know?
I can totally relate to that. Yeah,
Ugh.
I can. And I did, I think so I did we talked about this, I think before, the personality test thing. Did we, the Myers-Briggs? Okay. So I did that test and I came out ENFP. Anyway, E being extroverted, which is kind of only halfway true because I do enjoy talking to people. I don't mind talking to a group of people, but I need like time before and time after where I'm like not talking to anybody. And that sounds really weird, But that is something I've evolved into because I was not E before. You know what I mean? And so it was a choice, is my point. It was a choice that I chose. I chose to grow out of the I, the introversion that I was before. You know what I mean? But I have the empath issues where I have to go and sit in my corner and be quiet for a while and not talk to people and not have people talk to me. It's overwhelming. Even when we get off this stream, I'll have to sit for a few minutes before I can do anything else, you know, because I'm sharing all of my energy, which I love and I'm not complaining about. But you understand what I mean. It's one of those, it's just a thing. I get it. And I get the feeling of, sorry, my nose is itchy because my cat was just jumping on my shoulder.
That's okay.
I get the feeling of feeling like, okay, well, this is not good enough. It's not enough that I'm this or that or whatever, or it's not enough that I need, you know, in your case, you needed certain things, you know, like I was really like, I was in all the journalism classes and all that stuff too. But I was also like, you know, like I was in all these honors classes on this one side, but then with the math, I was kind of like, I don't really like math. It's not that fun for me. And so I would just be in regular math classes. And that used to make me feel not good enough. And little things like that, you know, or I didn't have time to take home ec because I was on the honors track. And then all these other people were taking home ec and learned how to cook things I didn't know how to cook. That's a stupid thing to care about. You know what I mean? It's not stupid. It's a weird thing for me at that time. I shouldn't have concerned myself with it. But that's the kind of thing I think that all of those things, it was kind of amazing that you managed to graduate early and create your own type of curriculum that worked for you, you know, or type of learnings that worked for you. But at that time you thought, well, I guess this is all I can do. But that's really pretty amazing that you did that. You know what I mean? And now you can probably look back and go, wow, that was kind of cool that I did that. But instead of feeling like, okay, well, I found a way that works for me and that's awesome, you probably felt like, well, I couldn't do it these other ways and that's bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was exactly what it was. It was, you know, so many things that were just not me that it was like, I just felt so bad about, and I was so disconnected. Oh my goodness. I look back on my old self and I just want to cry. Like you were saying earlier about really confusing sex for love. And I just feel like I was so lost in a paper bag about what I want. I did not know how to tell. Like when I went to nursing school, here's another example. When I went to nursing school, I hated it so much. Almost every single day I would leave and just wells of frustration inside of me. The program was awful. I'm like, this is just not me. And it was, but I'm like, no, I have to do this. Like this, I love caring for people. Like this is going to be fine. I just need to suffer through and suck it up. And everything in my body was screaming at me, like, this is not you. This is not the path that you're meant to go on. And all my life I'd been forcing myself to do these things that either other people told me I should do, or that my inner self, because of whatever everybody else had told me I was good at, was telling me to do. And so it just, and then I would, you know, kind of get further down the path in whatever direction. And then it was this realization of, I don't like, there's major things about this that I don't like. And how come I didn't realize this before? And oh, great. Like I'm such a failure. I'm just continuing to just start. My whole life is like on reset every 2 years, you know? And that was, and I didn't know how to break that cycle. And so, but it goes back to, people are talking in the chat, like finding your authentic self and what that is.
Yes.
It comes from, and it's hard when you're in a scramble like that.
Yeah.
You're already feeling behind the ball of like, what's wrong with me? Everybody else is like moving forward and I'm just stuck in this pattern and there's something wrong with me. And then you're like, I've got to hurry up and hurry up and hurry up. And, you know, and then you're just making more bad decisions that aren't thought through, you know? And so it's hard to just get centered and just bench yourself and breathe and tune into what something feels like when it feels like you're on the right path, and what something feels like when it's not for you.
Yeah. You know what I think? I think we all need to start asking ourselves, what's right with me? You know, what's good? Because everybody's got something. And so that's why I tell people all the time, like every day I tell people, think of 10 things you're grateful for, because gratitude's always good for your vibe, you know, and 3 things you love about yourself. And they're like, well, I don't love anything. Yes, you do. You do. Something. Okay. You like your smile, or you like, you know, the way your toes are shaped, or whatever. I don't care. Pick anything. You know, you have a good singing voice, or you have on fleek eyebrows or whatever, whatever it is. Think of 3 things you love about yourself. Can you guys do that for us in the chat right now? Go in there and write down 3 things you love about yourself. Okay, we'll make it easier. 1 thing you love about yourself in the chat real quick for us. Okay, I like to get people going with that, because that really, sometimes when you just like, okay, Dana, what's 1 thing you love about yourself? It's hard to do it.
Oh, that's a great question. I think that I'm pretty easy to be around.
Totally. I agree. Yes. I mean,
how about you?
I think I love that I am an outside the box thinker.
Ooh, that is a good one. That is a good one.
See?
Yes.
Yeah. It's something that when you think about it, and people don't like to talk about themselves, and some people are going to ignore my question, and some people are going to say what they think. And that's I hope that even if you don't type your answer and you're thinking about, what do I love about myself? Because our whole lives, we walk around thinking about, well, what's wrong with me? What could I be doing better? What about what's right with you? You know what I mean? Like, so often, especially when we're growing up in, or even currently in, or having recently been in toxic relationships, we walk around wondering what's wrong with us and what we can do better. And why is that person looking at me like that? And what does that person really think about me? And like, the truth is, the people that we're most attracted to in life in general, when we're healthy, and even sometimes when we're not, are those people who are confident enough to say, hey, there are some things about me that are pretty good. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about on a narcissistic level. I'm talking about on a healthy, normal level. Liking things about yourself is okay. It doesn't make you a narcissist. If you think you're cute and you take a couple of selfies, that doesn't make you a narcissist, not a toxic narcissist. I really think that the tipping point is empathy. When you stop caring how other people feel, then you're in the danger zone, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Dandelion Green says, gosh, I feel arrogant even trying to answer this, but I know I shouldn't feel that. I was struggling with the same thing. I'm like, man, it's really uncomfortable to say things about what do we like about ourselves. And I actually feel like I need to retract my answer, because I think it's that kind of thinking that tends to get us so stuck with the wrong kinds of people.
True.
Is thinking like, oh, I'm so easy to be around. I'm such a good little peacekeeper, right? Yeah. I'm such a good little people pleaser. I would say that I think I can find, I don't want to use the same one as you. Outside of the box. You know what? I am persistent. I really like that trait about myself. And my goodness, I feel like, man, my mom used to tell me when I was a little kid, I don't remember this, but really vague memories of this. I was so determined to just stand on my head. And I would do these headstands in the living room, like every night after school, until I got it down. And she's like, you would just fall over and fall over and fall over and fall over until you got it. And that's how I've been. If I have any degree of success in my life, it's because of that. It's just when I really want to figure something out, or when I get determined. And I think that skill, like being persistent, being determined about something, a goal that I want, that was also a big part in helping me heal.
Yeah.
Because, I was saying earlier, having that realization that joy and sadness can coexist, that we just have to learn to switch gears. One of the other big things that really helped me heal was digging my heels in and realizing, like, declaring that I'm not going to let this ruin my life, and I'm not going to let them steal any of my joy. And then seriously digging myself out of that hole. Yeah. And it was really, really hard, because as you guys know, like, it's so overwhelming and you can feel so just alone. And there's so much pain that you have to sit with every single day, and just deciding, like, I've shared this before, like cleaning out my junk drawer and just being like, I'm going to get organized. I'm going to, make this work for me. This is rocket fuel to take me to the next level of my life. Like, I am not going to give him the satisfaction of destroying my life like that scumbag. Like, he does not get that. Like, he's taken enough from me, but he's not going to take that. And just really getting determined. So that's my new one. It's not
beautiful one.
Go with the flow.
Love it. Yes, I love it. Love it. And I can actually, as you were talking, here we are, we're so much alike, right? But it's true.
Yeah.
I can relate to that because I'm like that too. I'm like, for example, with YouTube, everybody, I talk to people sometimes who are like, well, can you help me get better on YouTube? People who are in a similar space or whatever. And I'm like, yeah. And I tell them all the things, but here's the thing. Why do you think I know those things? Because I wanted to know how to get more people to understand and survive and get out of this. And so I learned how to try to do better on YouTube, how to try to reach more people, how to try to have more people see. And that was because I chose to do that. And it's not a short game, it's a long game. And I'm like, I'm with you. I'm persistent but only when I want to be, only if I care enough about something to be persistent. And I could also go off on my ADD rant as how I have that issue and I get distracted easily, but I could also look at that as, okay, yeah, but that makes me a different kind of thinker. And so, and I'm just going to say this one more thing and then we're going to move right on because I know we're busy and we have things to do, but really quick, that's why when I got to the point in my business where I was able to hire somebody, I picked someone eventually when I figured out what I was doing wrong, hiring the first few people.
Yeah.
I picked someone who I knew for sure was the opposite of me, wasn't an outside the box thinker as much, but was somebody that was so freaking organized that I was jealous of the organizational skills. And I was like, I need that in my life. So I was like, let me hire this person because now what we have is we have somebody who's an outside of the box, all over the place thinker, but who comes up with great ideas. That's my thing, great ideas. And somebody who's like willing to organize all that stuff and help me make those things come to fruition. Wow. It was a huge eye opener. And then I realized the whole, we have to use our strengths and let go of the things that we're weak in and let some, but that's a business thing moving right along. Point being, unconditional self-acceptance, people, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is so powerful. And it is so exciting when we start, like, that's another point I'll just touch on real quick. So you're talking about that self-awareness of, okay, you know what, maybe organization and attention to details is not my strong suit. And I need to find somebody that freaking loves that stuff. And then hopefully they'll do it even better than I could and let them run with it. Right. And letting go of feeling this need to be good at everything. And there's so much pressure that lifts from us when we can realize that, like, these are the environments that I work well in. These are the environments that I don't work well in. And like when I was a nurse, I realized right away, I'm like, I cannot work in hospitals. Like, that is so a million miles away from anything having to do with my strong suit. And, thank goodness I realized that. And so like home care and more of like outpatient type setting stuff was my forte. But that's the thing, it goes back to knowing like your authentic self is it's okay to have strengths and weaknesses, like Angie's saying, and to get clear on like, what are yours? Because everybody's so different. And peeling back,
go ahead.
Just peeling back, like, what truly are your strengths and weaknesses based on your perception of things, not based on somebody else's opinion that it's probably potentially inaccurate. I mean, that was such a game changer for me, realizing like, don't ask for opinions of people who like, don't even ask for like a map of how to get somewhere if they've never been there. Like, that was another thing. Like, I
like that.
I kept asking all the wrong people that would tell me like what I should do and what I was doing wrong and how I needed to do things better and how that'll never work. I'm like, I need to quit talking to these people and sharing them my hopes and my dreams, because to them it's not possible. And I need to find other people that are doing what I want to do, and to where it's like totally normal of like, yeah, of course you can do this. Like, this is what it's going to take, but this is how you get there. Like, finding your people is so huge.
So huge. I totally agree. And, and even just in your life, it doesn't just have to be work. I mean, Dana and I kind of obviously work in similar situation, but in your life, knowing that, okay, I'm strong in these areas, I'm less strong in these areas, even if you just don't enjoy certain stuff, you know what I mean? And you enjoy other stuff. Like, you have to know yourself well enough to go, okay, like, for example, if you're on a diet and you know for sure that if there's chocolate in your house, you're going to eat the chocolate. Get rid of the chocolate. And then keep going, because you'll succeed if the chocolate's not there. Or if it's a situation where you're like, well, I'm really good at doing dishes, but I really hate taking out the trash. And you have a kid that's old enough to take out the trash, work out a deal with the kid. Hey, I know you hate doing dishes. I hate taking out the trash. Can we make a deal? Yes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Own your strengths and own your weaknesses. And instead of beating yourself up for your weaknesses, make allowances for them, make modifications to your life for them. It'll change your world.
Totally. And like you're saying about weight loss, like here's another example of this. And, you know, whenever change is always uncomfortable for us and for generally other people in our inner circle, because people are used to like, this is how you are. And this is the dance that we do. Right. And weight loss is a great example of that. And so like when you start changing the foods that you eat, or the exercise that you're doing, it makes other people uncomfortable. And so it's the same thing with like, if you're going to start school or you're going to drop out of school or you're going to try to get sober or whatever it is, changes that you're making, other people, it's amazing the stuff that it kicks up inside of them. And it's like and it's amazing how like even unintentionally people can sabotage other people, saying like, well, you don't want to lose weight too quickly, or, you don't want to, life is about rewarding yourself and it's okay. And this, that, and the other. And it's like, it's so easy to derail a person. And
one drink won't hurt. Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
And when you do that, I mean, I can tell you from my own experience, before I was a lot heavier and when I lost a bunch of weight, I actually lost some friends over that deal.
I bet.
And sometimes because they were maybe, used to being my, like, we would talk about it together. And now suddenly I'm talking about, well, if you just try this, it's an internal change even more than an external change. And so when you're, around people who are constantly being negative and beating up on themselves and whatever, and you're, for example, trying to change your mindset so you can change your life, you end up changing groups of friends or losing friends. And sometimes you have to be okay with that, because maybe those people were a little toxic, even if they seem like amazing, awesome people. If you get to the place where you try to create personal change in your life and they stand in the way, well, here, just have this one piece of cake. I have one person in my life who I will not name, who bring, every time they find out, okay, I'm back on Weight Watchers, whatever, I get candy bars.
Really?
I'm say yes. And I feel frustrated, but I don't say anything because I will not continue to feed the problem. I just wait till the person leaves and give them to other people. But it's pretty obvious to me. And that's I'm not going to continue to talk about that, but let's move on. But that's a thing that happens. And people are that like obvious about it sometimes. One drink won't hurt. One candy bar won't hurt. One whatever won't hurt. But if you're trying to change your life and you want things to be different, you sometimes have to kind of take a little step back from people who whatever won't hurt you, Yeah. So
yeah, it's so true. And that's, the whole thing, like people, like we like people that are like us. That's normal. It's a very primitive thing. And so when we're doing something different, so like if you're losing weight, right. And the flip side to that is I like that. I've trained my brain to not view what other people are doing different, especially their successes. Because I think jealousy is a normal emotion that kind of surfaces when you see somebody that's actually losing weight, or they're, making some sort of
big
positive change that like you want to make, right? Like they're losing weight, or their business is doing great, or they're whatever they're doing. It can be really easy to just get jealous and kind of shut down. But if you can realize that like can also help you grow, because it makes you up your game.
Yes.
Right. So like you've got to either get comfortable with where you are, or you've got to up your game in order to feel more comfortable around them. And I don't know if that's like a conscious thing for a lot of people. I think that's more common for people to try to like sabotage other people with pushing them subconsciously, like pushing them, oh, it's totally no big deal. We're just going to have Olive Garden, or we're just going to do, and it's sort of like, it's a big deal for me, because that's not what I'm trying to lose weight, right? Like I can't eat, do all that like right now. Right. And so, yeah,
it's a and it takes a lot of strength to continue when you're dealing with people actively sabotaging you. But that's when you have to sort of, like I say, step back, give yourself a little space, a little grace, change your perception of the situation. And something that has really been big for me lately, that's been really helpful with things like that, is to really, and this is going to sound funny, but to look at those people and go, okay, I accept that those people have limitations. And then I can decide, if they're too toxic for me. And if they are, I can step back. But if I can look at those people and go, okay, I accept this person has these limitations, and it's somebody who I want or need to have in my life for whatever reason, then I can I can sort of have a blind spot about things. And I'm not talking about someone who lives in your house. I'm talking about maybe extended family or, longtime friends that you just kind of want to keep in touch with, but you're not having in your every second life, not your inner circle, right? Then you kind of give them grace and go, okay, well, that person has an issue with the fact that I'm trying to lose weight, for example. And so they keep giving me candy bars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's okay. And then you have to be strong enough in yourself to not eat the damn candy bar and to give it to somebody else who doesn't mind having a candy bar, or who can handle a candy bar without gaining. Because if you look at it the wrong way, you might get a pound if you're me. But
yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
I have to say, like, if I'm grounded enough in myself in that moment, and it can be really hit or miss, I almost kind of sadistically or like masochistically enjoy moments like that where something problematic happens. Like they might offer me a candy bar, right? Or like I see something like that and I'm able to handle it, like to not fall into it. And it's sort of like these little victories within myself.
I get it.
Yeah. But it really depends. So hit or miss. I never really know like how I'm going to respond. Sometimes I get really angry, but at other times I'm like, yeah, good for you for not like I had a coworker that used to try to bait me into arguments all the time. And it was such a rewarding feeling to see that stuff coming and then just to get out of the way. And it was almost this like weird sick game that I would play with myself to see how, if I could keep doing it, like if I could just kind of keep, karate moving around all of these jabs that she was doing. I don't recommend doing that, by the way. No, but like it was just interesting to kind of be able to observe.
Yeah. But that perception works really well if you're like, say, in a child custody situation with a narcissist. I have a client dealing with this exact thing. Where she's in that situation, she has to let the person be in the child's life. And instead of like crumbling, instead of screaming at him, I told her, I said, the power is in understanding this person and dealing with him on his level, not hatefully, but without emotion, and not allowing him to ever see you sweat or be irritated or frustrated with his BS, and to be able to say, okay, I understand. Again, I understand that person has limitations, and I'm going to work around those in order to get what I need from this person, which is simply information back and forth about the child. You know what I mean? Nothing else. And so when you have, as you said, when you can sidestep a person, even obviously you don't want to be in a situation where you have to live your life constantly playing the game.
Yeah. Right? That's exhausting. Yeah.
It's exhausting. But if you're on your way out, or you're dealing with a child custody situation or some other thing, someone at work for temporary purposes or whatever, you can enjoy that little taste of power by knowing, okay, they don't even know you have power. All they know is they don't know what the heck you're doing and why you're not reacting to their BS. But it feels amazing. And if you can embrace that, it can really help you go forward in your recovery.
Yeah. I think it's just realizing that it's a game. It's these little power struggles that people play. And when you see it for what it is, it really just sets you free. And it's so much easier to not get caught. I mean, like I said, it depends on the day for me. Yeah. But like it can get to the place where if you can ground yourself enough ahead of time, knowing like with that coworker or like with your client's ex, you know what you're walking into. It's going to be a game. It's going to be a bunch of silly little power struggles and, things that they're going to throw at you, and to just view it that way.
Yeah. And to let them think they're winning if that helps you get what you need from them.
That helps you win the game.
Yes.
Then
let them think whatever they have to think. That's the ultimate lesson. And it's hard because we want them to know that we're winning, right?
Or we want them to acknowledge that they're playing a game and to stop and to be solutions oriented, which will never happen.
Right. They will. Yeah. And that's the thing. that I think that the thing that for me has been so powerful is helping myself understand that it doesn't matter if that person validates me or not. That was the biggest, I think that was the most soul crushing part of the abuse in the first place, was the constant invalidation. But learning to self-validate and then being okay with knowing myself that I was getting done what I needed done and not caring if that person was able to validate me or not was huge.
Mm-hmm.
Perception. Does that make sense? Because going back to what you said, where you're like, okay, well, I sidestepped this argument again. And you would be like, yes, that's self-validation, because you didn't have to tell her that you won because you sidestepped. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You validated yourself because you saw what you were doing and you intentionally chose, nope, I'm not going to play that BS today. And you went back to your thing. So that I said BS like 16 times in an hour. But anyway, yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good thing. Yeah. Thoughts?
Just the games people play. It's amazing the level, but I think to the level of self-awareness that we can get out of that with, I don't know. It's always interesting to me, like when people kind of poke buttons and then later on to kind of examine like, why was certain areas sensitive, and is that something else? Like, is there something deeper there? Not saying that they wouldn't have had that impact. Like they would have found a different button. And everybody's got buttons because we're all human, right? But right. I don't know. We can almost kind of use our interactions with them for our personal growth to examine, like, oh, that's interesting. Like you were saying, like that cashier that called you honey.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, an old me would have been upset by that.
Mm-hmm.
That would have pushed a button, and then new me is able to examine like why that is. And if somebody's currently doing that, like, it's just amazing the stuff the connections we can make. Like with that former coworker of mine, it was also many realizations of, she is for sure intentionally doing this. I don't have this dynamic with a whole lot of people in my life, but it also reminded me of other dynamics I had that were that same kind of crazy making, but I wasn't able to pinpoint it at the time. And then realizing like all these just different levels of awareness of like, I don't need to have any relationships in my life where a person just keeps coming at me sideways about stuff. And it's just exhausting. And even if it's not her, even if it's 100% me, which it's not, even if it was, like, I don't have these dynamics with other people. And so for that reason alone, like, I just need to walk,
Yeah. And I think this comes all down to being so honest with yourself that it can be painful at times, that it can become like what we were talking about earlier. We both have sort of tried to substitute sex for love at points in our lives. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And understanding ourselves to that point and accepting yourself enough that you can look deep into the ugly abyss that you think you have going on, which is not as ugly as you probably think, but being honest with yourself and saying, okay, this is the truth. And even though I don't like to think this about myself, this is really what happened. And it's okay that it happened, because now I'm moving forward and I'm understanding differently. I'm perceiving things differently. Oh, okay. My cat just climbed on my shoulder. Anyway, ow, that hurt. Okay. So, but yeah, it's about, woo, like a huge adrenaline rush. Anyway, like self-acceptance on a whole level that I can't even fully express. Unconditional. We don't even know what that means sometimes when we grow up with narcissists, but to the point that you are willing to look at yourself like proverbially in the harshest, nakedest way and still be like, okay, that is what I am. That is what I have been. And this is where I'm going. And this is how I'm going to get there. Because you can't ever get to this is where I'm going and this is how I'm going to get there if you don't truly open your eyes and look at all the ugliness that you think you have and see what it's not. And I don't like the word ugly. I shouldn't use that word. I mean, raw, like raw with yourself. And that's part of the reason that I think we were so open with everybody today about things we've never talked about before, because we were like, this is how you do it, y'all. Be this raw with yourself, as raw as we were with you today about certain things that happened in our lives. And even more so,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good discussion.
Yeah. As always, I'm so glad that we do this. I just enjoy your company and your feedback and our conversation. And
all of those things
All of it.
from here too. Ditto.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think our communities are really coming together because a lot of the things you guys are talking about on this side, we're talking about on that side. And that is a beautiful thing. So good stuff, y'all.
Yes, I was thinking real quick. I was telling Angie before we started, I have been on this True Blood. She just got me started on True Blood, that old HBO show. And I've been watching that nonstop. And we were watching it till like probably midnight last night. And I was thinking, I'm like, man, it would be so fun to do just some sort of like totally off topic show, Angie, about like randomness of just.
We should do that.
Thoughts about randomness, not related to this, would be, I think, really enjoyable.
We should totally do that. Would you guys want us to do that? Tell us in the comments.
I think I wish we lived closer, because it really would be. It would be fun. It'd be fun to do a dinner and a movie kind of show.
Yes.
Or like where we could make a meal and then, yeah.
So you're not moving to St. Louis though, right?
No, but I could make time. I mean, you're not that far. Like I could make time to come out there and we could do a few of these.
We should do that. That would be super fun.
I think so too.
Okay. We're going to talk about it.
Okay. Good deal.
Okay. I'm so excited.
Yes.
All right.
Fun.
How are we doing? We're over time, aren't we? I'm so sorry.
Oh, we're so over. I know. I'm so sorry too. So thank you guys for being here. This is a live stream Angie and I do every week. We alternate channels. So make sure that you subscribe to both of ours. Her contact info will be down below, but it's Angie Atkinson over on YouTube. And with Tuesdays, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when we normally do these. So we hope to see you next week.
Over at my channel. We'll see you there.
Yes, thank you. Over on Angie's channel.
Yes. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.